Oh, there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and mute our friends. And if you want to speak, just know you've been muted and you can unmute yourself, or you can ask Tracy for some help. Put it in the chat if you need help. I'm going to start sharing my screen. We have like a good number, like 20 people scheduled to come or signed up to come tonight. So more people might pop in, but for the sake of time, I'd like us to get started. Um, and I think first, actually, well, no, I'm going to share my screen and stop talking and getting ahead of myself. Um, so my name is McKenzie Bade-Knill, and I serve on our diocesan staff as the director for formation and camping. And that means that my portfolio, actually, I'd like to see your faces. That means that my portfolio touches all things spiritual formation for all ages, and then our camping programs, which is kind of self-explanatory. And the adult formation piece is actually new to my portfolio, which I'm excited about. But I have big shoes to fill from our Canon Tracy Little, who's here, who's held that in her portfolio for quite a while. Tonight, I'm excited to share with you some offerings that our diocese that we are planning to offer as an office that hopefully will be a benefit to you and your parishes or to you personally. And then also we're gonna give some time for sharing ideas and other things as well. And I'm gonna do some connecting with some resources too. We're gonna first begin with prayer. So this prayer that I'm gonna offer is adapted from the writing of Sarah Bessey. The Lord be with you. God of new beginnings and ancient rhythms, we gather tonight as your people, scattered across miles, but united in purpose. Give us eyes to see the holy work of formation happening it's in our midst, ears to hear your voice in the voices of our neighbors, and hearts brave enough to try new things in your name. Meet us here in this digital space. Make us curious, generous, and hopeful in the name of the one who forms us still. Amen. So like I said earlier, here's our plan for tonight. We have 90 minutes together. I don't know if that's the amount of time that we're going to need. I don't really think so, but if you have some really exhilarating conversation, then just maybe. But if you need to hop out at any time, please know that this is being recorded, so you'll be able to come back on it later. And I'm also going to send a follow-up email to anybody who registered with links and other things that we've shared tonight. So you'll have that as well. First tonight, I'm going to introduce us to 3 diocesan-led Lenten offerings. Number 1 is a 5-week curriculum offering called Bearing Witness. That'll be a study co-led by our assisting bishop, Ann Hodges-Koppel, and myself. And then also a 5-week book study that will be led on the book Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. And then also a Lenten devotional offering from our Sanctuary and Support Task Force. And then you're going to have some time in some breakout rooms to share what's happening in your parishes, to learn from each other. And then we're going to come back together to report on that, to share about that. I think that that is really a critical, crucial thing in all of our existence in our diocese. It can be really easy to feel like you're functioning on an island in your own parish, and you're not. Our diocese is all of us. And so let's share those resources with one another, or even share worries or fears or the fact that you don't have any ideas. I'm sure that there are other people right there alongside you. I'm hoping that that we'll leave with some concrete options for Lent, and then also some new ideas from colleagues and friends who are doing this work alongside us. I'm going to be sharing links in the chat throughout our time together. So just pay attention to that, but don't feel stressed about it. You can grab them now, or I will also share them in a follow-up email that I send after we wrap up today. And we will be using breakout rooms later, but Zoom is pretty helpful in guiding us through that process if you haven't used those before. So we are going to dive in. So the first one that we are going to that I'm going to highlight and that I'm particularly excited about is Bearing Witness, which is a curriculum that's from the American Friends of the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem. Actually, our assisting bishop, Anne, is on the board for the American Friends of the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem, and it really is a place where her heart is. And it's and so this is something that she brought up to me when we first started having conversations about something that she really felt would be a great asset and resource for us to share in our diocese. And Lent seemed like a really great time. So Bearing Witness is a 5-week curriculum, and it focuses on the lives of Palestinian Christians and the witness of the church in the Holy Land. And it was created before the current war, but it provides essential context for understanding where we are now. It combines video testimonies and scripture reflection and discussion questions, and will be a really great thing to study, I think, during Lent, to be contemplative about it. I'm going to play a short introductory video that will give us a sense of what this curriculum is about. And then I'll share the specifics of our diocesan offering before I press play. I'm also going to share in the chat so that I don't forget. This is a link to the information about this curriculum. It is free. So if you don't want to participate with our diocese now, I mean, this is something that you could also self-lead on your own, and I would also be happy to help support in thinking about facilitation. So if you could, when I press play, I'm going to mute myself, but when I press play, if you could give me a thumbs up when you hear it, that would be really helpful.
The Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem bears witness to the love of Christ here in the land of the Holy One, in the place where it all happened. The Diocese of Jerusalem extends into 5 countries of Palestine, Israel, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. And we have more than 35 institutions of healthcare, rehabilitation, and education. The Diocese of Jerusalem sees its ministry and mission through the loving action of Christ's love for the world, and especially in a land of pilgrimage, walking in the footsteps of Jesus. The American Friends of the Diocese of Jerusalem brings people together of goodwill in order to support the Diocese of Jerusalem, without which we actually can't carry out the ministry that we are carrying today. Friendship is something that is more than valuable. We are bound together to do and to work and to nourish and to love people whoever they are.
The American Friends of the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem was born out of great need and great suffering. Its mission is to support the diaconal ministries of the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem, hospitals, schools, rehabilitation centers, old age homes, job training centers.
American Friends and the Diocese of Jerusalem, being partners in mission, we together work in order to transform the lives of so many people, and especially those who are disadvantaged and on the margins of society. Bearing Witness is a program that is done in cooperation between the American Friends and the Diocese of Jerusalem. This program is also for our American friends, wherever they are, in order to hear these wonderful stories and the transformation that happens in people's lives in the place that is dear to us,
The core of this program is the videos of people who are living in the Holy Land at this moment that tell their authentic stories from a diverse viewpoint, whether they be Palestinians, whether they be Israelis, whether they are Muslim, Christians, or Jewish, whether they are clergy or lay, young, old. They tell their own story that we're allowed to witness and hear and see the places they live. And so many of us who cannot go to the Holy Land, this provides a wonderful opportunity to be able to see firsthand and hear what life is really like and what it means to bear witness to wholeness, to teaching, to healing in a place that is very broken, but that they have hope and are called to do this despite all the obstacles that they have.
Bearing Witness provides Christian communities with the biblical basis, the inspiration, and the tools to connect with and support the Christian witness in the Holy Land. It's really an invitation to learn from these women and men firsthand, to listen to them on their own terms, and allow that listening and learning to transform us, to recalibrate who we are as a church and as Christians, and how we express that in our ministries.
And therefore, I invite you to listen carefully and prayerfully with the people who are talking to you, even though virtually, in order to understand and to deepen your own formation and your own spirituality. How can I be of help to the people who are protecting my faith in the place where it all happened? So may God bless you. May God continue to work with you so that you can bring more life to what already is happening. And by giving life, we understand that our risen Lord will bless us with even more blessings.
Thanks, friends. So this is going to be a diocesan-wide offering. And Bishop Ann and I are planning it together. But she is our part-time bishop, so we don't want to take too much of her precious time. So she will be joining us for sessions 1 and 5. And we will also have a community on Circle, which I will explain a little bit later, where participants that are engaged in this study will be able to interact and engage with one another throughout their time, and Bishop Ann will also be a part of that with us as well. We are going to be offering 2 Zoom sessions each week, which will be both 2 hours long. So you could choose what works for your schedule, and the full schedule is here on this screen. Both the Monday evening and the Thursday morning sessions will cover the same content, and I'll be facilitating both throughout the 5 weeks, though I think Bishop Ann would happily facilitate the sessions that she's there for, so I might let her. She'll be with us for the first and final weeks, and we're hoping that she can join for other sessions if she's able to. And there will be space created for real conversations, questions, and wrestling with what we are learning. I think that it's going to be a really fruitful time. I am going to share in the chat the registration links. So also, I mean, if parishes were interested in running their own groups with this, I would be happy to have a conversation. And I know that Bishop Ann would be happy to do that too. And you don't necessarily have to do this during Lent. The materials are free, and I sent the link earlier, so you can take a look at that. Really, this is for anyone wanting to deepen their understanding of the global church, seeking to connect Lenten practice to justice and peacemaking, and people willing to listen to perspectives that challenge us. And if you're curious, like I said earlier, about what Bishop Ann is thinking about and and cares about this, this really is a window into our heart for our diocese to see. Again, all the sessions are going to be on Zoom, and you can register through the links that were shared in the chat. And yeah, I think it's going to be really great. I am going to stop sharing my screen for a second to answer any questions that anybody might have, and to give our friend that's supposed to be talking about our book study maybe a couple more minutes to show up. And if not, I will gladly talk about that. Does anybody have any questions or anything that you're wondering about that offering specifically? Yeah, go ahead. You can just unmute yourself. Oh, and if you need me to help, I can.
Just a question, how current is that video? I mean, there's a lot of chaos going on over there now, and I have a feeling it was made before some of this happened.
Yep, for sure. So like I said earlier, the curriculum was created before the war. And Bishop Ann and I actually, we met today and talked about it. And she wanted me to reiterate the fact that, like, though it was created before, it is still very relevant today. And things that existed before still exist today, but maybe in different ways. Like, for example, I think it's in session 2, one of the ministries that's spoken about is the hospital in Gaza, which you may remember actually got bombed earlier last year. So it's really, though it is like older videos, it is still incredibly relevant today. So any other questions? Awesome. I am going to share again. You know, I always make fun of in my head of myself every time I say, and I'm going to share my screen. You know, I'm going to share my screen, but I feel the need to announce it. Okay. So our second diocesan offering is a book study of Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. And this is going to be facilitated by the Reverend John Wakefield, who is, I see a friend on Laura's screen. The Reverend John Wakefield, who is the priest at Epiphany in South Haven, and also the Reverend Rada Michelle Trapaga, who is the rector of the Central Michigan Episcopal Covenant in Cadillac and Big Rapids. And in this book, Atul Gawande, he recounts his professional and personal encounters with age and death and dying, and talks about some pretty specific examples of that, from a young woman who has cancer, who has endless debilitating treatment in a futile pursuit of survival, to his own family's experience navigating his father's final years. And it really is a meditation on how people can live. It shows that the ultimate goal is not a good death, but a good life all the way to the end. And I think that it's going to be a really profound offering. Rada and John are connecting with some resources and some folks locally to see if they can bring in any guests to be a part of it. I know that one of them has a connection with a death doula in Grand Rapids, and they're hoping that they might be able to invite them to be a part of it. And regardless of the special visitors, I think it's going to be a really moving experience. You know, and John, this was one of the things that was going to get shared by not me. John was originally approached about this topic by a member of his parish who cares very deeply about having conversations about end of life planning and like what happens. And I believe they're a hospice nurse. So it's something that's also really important and that they're thinking about all the time and that sometimes we just don't talk about. And so that was motivation that was going to happen in John's church. And I said, my friend, would you like to offer that to more people? So that's kind of where this came from. I think that it's going to be really lovely. And a side note, this was a book that was given to me personally by the old archdeacon in the Diocese of Eastern Michigan, Annalie Kuby, at the end of a summer when I was at her house for coffee, reflecting on my grandmother passing away that summer and a dear friend passing away that summer, and then another death happening that summer. And she handed me this book and said, my dear, please read this book. So I'm grateful for that. So I'm looking forward to that study. The schedule, it will be Tuesdays from 1 to 2 p.m. on Zoom for 5 weeks during Lent. And it'll be the same 5-week span as Bearing Witness. So if you want to spend 3 hours on Zoom that week, I mean, would be glad to have you. And the dates are on the screen, and then I'm going to share the link for the registration in the chat. This book really it invites crucial conversations that our churches need to be having. It talks about mortality. It talks about what makes life meaningful, how we care for the dying. And I think that these are very Lenten themes and very practical for our parish's pastoral care as well. And I think that this is the kind of reading that changes how we show up with folks, especially when we're visiting. So I'm going to share that link. Normally I have 2 screens, but it is snowing where I am, and I came home so I wouldn't be trapped. So I have 1 screen. Are there, well, I guess I'll stop. Any questions about this offering? Anything that you're wondering about? And it's okay if you don't have anything. Okay, awesome. So next, I am going to invite Raina Hauter to share about what our sanctuary and support task force for the diocese is offering us during this Lenten season. And Raina, I think it would be helpful for you to give a little bit of context about what this task force is and why you exist and where you were born, where it came from.
Yeah. So I'm Raina. I am one of the co-conveners for our Sanctuary and Support Task Force. It is born out of the Sanctuary and Support for Immigrants and Refugees resolution that was passed at convention in October. Father Jared wrote a wonderful resolution that was filled with scriptural references, and we have taken those scriptural references and we're providing 8 weeks of Lenten devotionals out of that. It will be starting, hopefully. All of this is tentative right now as we are actively developing this. The intent is for it to start the week before Ash Wednesday, which would be February 15th. The main rollout would be through Circle and through the other diocesan social medias. And the final week would be Easter. It worked out really well that with the intent of this being individual discernment in how people are called individually towards action, that it ended with Easter during a season of resurrection and a season of action. So we're taking those passages from Father Jared's resolution and exploring how they call us forward with stories and with questions that we can ask ourselves, and how we interact with them as individuals in a parish. So I know that we have at St. Paul's in Flint, we have a little Bible study group on Wednesdays that I'm going to probably use that time to do this. But it's meant to be brought by individuals into their parish contexts to discuss, whether not every church can be Father Jared's in Grand Haven and become a sanctuary church. Other churches may discern that they want to support and help, but they're called in a different way. This is to help facilitate those conversations inside your parishes. Uh, and like I said, our goal is February 15th for the first one to come out. And that's all I have, McKenzie.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Raina? You guys are working very, very hard on a deadline that actually you didn't decide, because Holy Week like Lent happens when it happens. So thank you for that. Okay, so now is the time when we are going to break out in breakout rooms, and I'm trying to determine, actually, I feel as though I think I just like this conversation to happen in this space because there's not that many of us. So I am going to drop some questions into the chat. But the first thing that I want us to talk about and to share is what is the Lenten formation that your parish is planning or considering or thinking about, or what is something that, like, maybe you're not the person in your parish that, like, I don't know, makes those decisions, but what's something that, like, you would like to do or have seen other people doing that you'd love to chat through, or what have you done in the past that's worked really, really well? And then the second question I'd love to talk about, and we don't have to get through all three, but I'd love to touch on them if we can. What's one adult formation win from the past year that you can share? Doesn't even have to be within your own parish. It could be an adult formation win of you forming yourself, doing some of your own spiritual formation. But what is one win that you can share? And then what's one thing that you're curious about or want to try? And we really can just popcorn around. You don't need to wait to be called on. I mean, sometimes it's a little awkward in Zoom, but I trust that we can get through the clunkiness. So there are the questions, and while somebody, maybe an extrovert, is chomping at the bit to be the first person to share, I am gonna pull up a link to one of my favorite resources to share in the chat too. And if there's like links to resources that you love or curriculums or whatever, please share.
We'll jump in here, McKenzie, before I forget what I was even going to say. I'm not in charge of adult formation, so I don't know that we have anything on tap for certain for Lent at St. Mark's per se. But what has been successful for me for youth and above in the past is the Way of Love in Lent curriculum from the Episcopal Church. It takes the Easter Vigil readings. And I just know, going back maybe about 7 or 8 years now, maybe not that long, one of the youth that went through that with me and then went to the Easter Vigil service came up to me during the peace and he said, "Oh my goodness, I get all of this now." So I highly recommend that. I can drop a link in there in a minute.
Already did.
You already did. It's already there. Perfect.
Fast
Yes.
fingers.
Highly recommend that. Adult formation win from the past year. Again, I wasn't in charge of it, but I recall last Lent, we did at St. Mark's, Rowan Williams' Being Christian book, and covers baptism, Bible, Eucharist, and prayer. So 4 sections, and it's not a long book, but it's very digestible and sparked a lot of good discussion. What am I curious about or want to try? Well, I'm hoping we might try. I'm going to plant the seed at St. Mark's, maybe St. Andrew's too, of maybe trying to do the Way of Love in Lent for this season. So, yeah.
The resource that I was looking up, I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the SALT Project or saltproject.org. It is one of my favorite resources. and I'll share the link in the chat. They have, it's a nonprofit, like publishing, like production house, basically, production company that really like leans in heavy to visual storytelling. So they have a whole bunch of like printed things that they come up with for various seasons of the year that are lovely. But they also have like short films and other things that like you can adapt to your own parish. So like you can purchase them to edit. Look at the towel. That's what I do. I'm just sorry. I'm saying hi to my friend that's on the screen. But yeah, I really love the SALT project. I also like, I really love Mary Oliver. She is my favorite and I deeply grieve her. And the SALT project has done some really beautiful studies on Mary Oliver, and also there's some other ones that I can't remember right now. Yeah, Mary Oliver's devotions, there's C.S. Lewis, Emily Dickinson, a whole bunch of other stuff. It's really, really lovely. So I love that. And then I also, I think that a really great intergenerational tool that I really love is the resources that come from Illustrated Ministry. I think that though coloring pages could look like they're only for children, that's not very true. Anybody can color. So, and I think an adult formation win, I really loved the Advent Quiet Day that Bishop Ann led and that we hosted. It was also a really exciting move in being brave and trying a new thing, because we hosted it on a platform we'd never hosted anything live before. So it worked really well, and I think that people loved it. I'm going to share a link to the Illustrated Ministry one as well. Go ahead, Rona.
You asked me today to find something that we had done before. I'm from St. Peter's in Montague. We're presently without a priest. Father David retired in June. So we're kind of winging things as far as setting up schedules and stuff. But we've always done a Lenten study and an Advent study where we come at 5:30 on Sunday evenings, have a potluck, share some time together, and then we do a serious study. Sometimes those are drawn up by Father David himself, but a lot of times there's a book, and I managed to find one book. You're reading it backwards, aren't you? Okay. How to Read the Old Testament. Charpenter. I'm not sure how to pronounce the first name. Anyway, that book with lots of pictures and diagrams walks you through the Old Testament. And we did that in a matter of, I think it was a Lent a year ago. And it really helped us to see where the stories of the Old Testament mesh together and what came first. And for we who don't have a real handle on the Old Testament, sometimes it was a good introductory / way of seeing the whole picture of the Old Testament. So other than that, I'm just interested in finding a way to do or continue our study during Lent and having it meaningful for our congregation without a priest leading it. So that's all I have.
Thanks for sharing, Rona. John, welcome. I'm going to share in the chat some of the questions that we're talking about. Also, if your parish doesn't have a plan or whatever, if there's something that you've always dreamt about doing that you want to share as well. And we've been sharing some resources in the chat that I'll also send out. I did also plug in a link to a Google Drive. Like I said earlier, adult formation is new to my portfolio. So I haven't fully had a dive into all of the things for all of the ages, but this is a resource that I had curated previously. That's a lot of like intergenerational resources. There is some stuff that would be relevant for adults as well. Yeah, actually, no, it's all inclusive. So enjoy that list and feel free to take whatever you want. Anybody else? Yeah, go
Yes,
ahead.
I'm Linda. I'm at St. Luke's in Kalamazoo, and we're doing this year partnering up with the Diocese of Southwest Ohio to do dismantling racism training using picture books. We've
Mm,
had several of our team do that across the last months or so, and we thought this would be a good way to bring the congregation closer into the work of the anti-racism team in our parish. So we will start that at February 12th. We'll do Thursdays. It'll start February 12th before Lent. It will go through Lent and it will end the Sunday after Easter or the Thursday after Easter. So we have some days that we're going to do some of our own books on Zoom. This will all be Zoom based. So we're really excited to partner with Miriam McKinney in Ohio.
amazing.
I would recommend taking her class because it's really terrific.
Yeah, I'm going to try and find info about that on Southern Ohio's website. I just did a quick Google search and it pulled me up a resource from 2023. So I think that there's something
Oh,
more.
there's more. There's more there. Yeah, there's more
Yeah.
there now. She's already
Yeah.
got a list of things out. She's created us special time for our parish. So it's not joining her normal list of dates, but for our parish in particular,
That's
which is
amazing.
really cool. Really cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else?
Every year at St. Paul's in Flint, we do Stations of the Cross, which I think most of y'all probably also do. But Tim Grant is in charge of that for our parish, and he is trying something new because over the last year he has kind of crusaded getting started a chaplains for all of our ministries to ensure that we are remain grounded in prayer in all that we do. And he is tasking all of our chaplains in all of our ministries to take one of the stations and focus on that for Lent and lead that as we do our stations every week. So that's both a win and our plan. So I think our other big wins this year have been spearheaded by Tim as well, with the adult or the chaplaincy program. We last summer we had some adult Sunday school stuff going on. It's much easier when choir season isn't happening than it is during choir season because all of our people that would attend are in choirs. So we have to kind of drop it during the fall and winter and spring. So I think those things and our continued lector formation have just been huge wins and huge gifts that Tim has shared with us at St. Paul's.
Thanks for sharing, Raina. Anybody else? I'm still trying to find a good link. Linda, is it just their general dismantling racism training that they offer in the Diocese of Southern Ohio, or is this in addition to that? Do you know?
She is the missioner for dismantling racism and something else. So I think it's listed under their programs if you're on their website. If you
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know if I can
It's okay.
find her information right now, but
No, I've got it. I'm just trying to I've got it. I'm just trying to figure out if it's the right thing that I'm looking at.
well, whatever's using picture books, that's it. And it's a training that is you can take for your requirement for having had dismantling racism. It's a terrific entry point into hard topics. Actually, the Great Lakes Diocese could actually share Miriam's material or Miriam's information about her classes. She offers multiple classes, some from 12 to 1, some in the evening. So it's really good.
Yeah, I'll share her information and what you've shared about this with Canon Nuria. She
I think
supports
just
the work
email
of.
it just yeah, just emailing her would probably do it if you have her email address,
Yep,
mmckinney at whatever the thing is.
perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? A Lenten formation your parish is planning? Yeah, Teresa.
Well, something I'm working on. I wouldn't quite say it's a plan yet. Um, uh, I'm relatively new at a church, and when I approached our vestry about doing a 3-week Advent formation program, they said, no, we don't want one. And they don't want Zoom. So I thought, well, we do need to do formation. What's possible if it's not in person and if it's not Zoom? And so I started writing a weekly letter to the parish by email. And that seems to be getting some positive response. So I'm putting trying to figure out ways how to take that. I found something that kind of works, and that's those emails and trying to do formation through email. But it's one way, and it's not. I guess what I'm trying to do is to form them so that they want formation, if that makes sense.
Teresa,
Absolutely.
Teresa, can I hop in on that?
Please do.
I think so. I came to the Church of the Epiphany in South Haven last summer. So, well, 2 summers ago now. Goodness, it's 2024. And I was told pretty directly, we don't want formation. We don't need this. We have our service and we have brunch and we have a few book clubs that meet once a month. And we're pretty happy with that. So you don't need to teach us anything. And obviously, as a new priest, you want to teach something. You want to talk about Christian formation in general. And so I tried in my first year a book club that focused on the liturgical seasons, and I had maybe 2 or 3 people show up. And it was pretty frustrating in a church that was growing and doing pretty well, 60, 70, 80, 90 last summer, to only have 3 people show up for formation. So I put it on hold for a little bit. And this last fall decided to launch what I called night classes, and I had 0 people show up. And so this idea of formation, just in the concept of people admitting that they have things they want to learn, is difficult because they have so many other streams of thought. Like they have newsletters and they have podcasts and they have YouTube people they follow, whatever it is. They don't feel like they need it. We know that they do, and that our churches want to be places of teaching and learning. And so, what I'm going to try in Lent, the Lenten formation we're planning, is a new 10 a.m. book study. That 10 a.m. book study is not called a book study, it's called Gather and Grow. And the idea is we're just going to get together. Now, that's how I'm framing it. It's a time midweek for us all to be together. But as their priest, I hope no one here is listening or is passing this along, but as their priest, like my thought is, I know they want to get together in the middle of the week, especially in the winter, especially in Lent. So we're going to get together and have coffee, and I'm going to slow roll some formation into it because formation as a concept has not worked because they don't feel like they need it or want it. But we know they do, and they know they do. They have questions all the time about, oh, so where'd this service come from? Well, it's in the Book of Common Prayer. What's that? Well, let's talk. So there's opportunities for that in conversation. But for me at my church, I'm not saying it'll be true for you either, Teresa. When people tell me that they don't want formation, I know it's not true. They just don't like the idea of sitting around and hearing a lecture or some of the traditional things that they had in the 70s, 80s, 90s for formation. So I'm trying to really like massage it into the things that they do love, which is getting together. And that's sort of our framework for this Lent.
Thank you. My first pitch was like a soup supper, so fellowship of formation, and that was, that got a no from the vestry. So I'm seeking other creative ideas like what you talked about to see what we can do, see what's possible.
Teresa, I would always show up for soup. Sorry, no one wanted to come. I want to
Me
drive there right
too.
now.
Field trip.
Tracy? Hope you're muted, friend. There's always got to be one. We've always got to do it. And to say "ope" before it, so everybody knows we're from Michigan.
And that's the second time today. So I'm done my quota. One of the things that we tried, because for similar reasons that people didn't want it or didn't want it in the formats that I was used to doing adult formation, is during coffee hour doing like an intergenerational kind of activity. Sometimes it was putting together care boxes for college students. Sometimes it was coloring and talking. Sometimes it became an intergenerational vacation Bible school over a season. So we did Narnia one year, turned the church into Narnia. We had adults dress up in parts that we chose for them to do. They were so good at it. Professor Snape was so much into his role, he scared the bejeebies out of me when I tried to give him the bread at communion. Like down to his eyes, he was that transformed. It was amazing to see it all happen. And it wasn't that we had a lot of kids, it was that it was intergenerational and people bought into it. And we offered, if you don't want to do this during coffee hour, because we did, I changed my sermon to be the theme of the day and made sure that like the whole worship service and the coffee hour all blended. And we had activity centers around and tables for if you don't want to participate, you still had a place to go for coffee and just to visit with your friends that also didn't want to go. So that's another option. Calling it intergenerational, John, in your place would work because you have all the generations. Teresa, I'm not sure if it would work where you are, but you can still call it that and do things so that people are playing. Yeah. I know of a clergy person years and years and like a lifetime ago, was in an aging congregation that was desperate for kids, but there were no kids. It was a retirement community. They weren't going to get any kids. It just was an unrealistic want. And so they did things. She started doing things within the congregation itself. So they turned the church into a mini putt, and they had little halls, and you went around and you played mini putt all through the church. And all of these older people were playing mini putt all through the church, and they could change things up and add things, dropping questions, or having conversation questions available on tables when people are coloring is great. Sitting there and coloring with them and having conversations that are leading is great. Anything where you can begin a conversation about God and slip things in where people don't expect, they don't want to, you're right, John, they don't want to sit and be lectured at. So making it interactive, that's my thoughts.
I jokingly say I've got two generations, the baby boomers and the silent generation. So that's my intergenerational. It's two.
Another resource that I really love, and I almost forgot about, which is ironic for those of you that were at convention, I love prayer stations. I love contemplative prayer stations. And I think that is a really, especially because the season of Lent is a longer season, I think that that's a really powerful way to engage your parishioners in things where they're not being forced to do anything, but if they're set up around spaces and they're like, it's just right where they're standing and maybe they'll look at it and it's something for them to touch or engage in, it's bringing their eyes in. I love prayer stations. And if you're interested, if that's a thing, I didn't think about that before this, and I wish I would have. I'm happy to kind of pull some stuff together from some resources that I have. There's also another resource that I'm going to mute myself and try and figure it out and send it in the chat that I can't remember right now either. And Christopher, I saw you unmute, so I'm going to mute myself so that you can talk.
Hey there, I'm Christopher from Grace in Holland. And I have a couple notes. One of them is to the query about parishes that aren't like ready to jump in on formation, maybe as robustly as some of us would like. I feel very fortunate. I actually have a Grace family that's also in this group. But I feel pretty fortunate. Grace is we're pretty healthy and across the board as far as participation in the areas, though I'd always love more. But I have served in churches. I remember one on the North Shore of Chicago where the rector did this like after school activity for kids after school and nobody came. And I said to her, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And she was like, "Why? We held space. And as far as the community knows, space was held for children and youth. And that's all that matters. It doesn't matter who came or not." And so I try to hold that close as well when I think about that we hold space, we claim space. The Roseboom family can probably affirm that at Grace, I've just decided like we're going to double down on being like, oh, we're a formation parish, and I'm just going to keep like pressing and pressing and making this congregation own it, and I preach about it, and and so I think some of it too is just claiming space and holding it, and so and letting spirit kind of guide where it goes. The being mortal in my last congregation, which was not Episcopal, but a pretty large one, uh, that we did that book and it ended up transforming our adult formation for years because it turned into we had death cafes after that and we had or let's talk about death over dinners, we had all kinds of end of life planning and like family circle. Those kinds of things kind of become a seed that can become transformative. So I guess when I talk about formation with folks who are feeling like what do we do, especially as the culture is shifting how we receive formation and what that looks like. I think we keep claiming our space and yeah. So that's that. At Grace, we have been using this year kind of a little longer algorithm of the SALT project resources and the illustrated ministry. We serendipitously landed on the Will to Dream for Advent for most of the things, which is phenomenal because a lot of my language in my preaching and in Jen's preaching is like uh, God's dream for the world, especially in the midst of despair. Enough said there. And so we that was really helpful for us. And then we used kind of echoing Jeff's affirmation of the Lenten option of this. We used the journey of is it the journey of love? It's the Episcopal Church's resource, the way of love. Journey of Advent. It's got a long name, but it's wonderful. A great resource from the Episcopal Church, 4 weeks, and it was good, solid. So yeah, I couldn't ring the endorsements of the Illustrated Ministries resources good enough, especially because, again, it's like seeds. We put out this tables in the commons of our church with everything you can imagine. We overload the options, and then we trust that people will take it and do with it what they need. So I'm kind of the side of I'm going to worry less and just trust more.
I think that's a helpful perspective, and I'm glad you shared it. Anybody else? This has been a great conversation.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We're just getting started with digital stuff, and I know that Zoom, you need to purchase something in order to be able to host Zoom meetings that are longer than 40 minutes. Is there any kind of diocesan program where if you go through the diocese, where there's a group rate for getting Zoom, anything like that?
No, but I think that, and well, Rachel's contact information. I think that Rachel would be a really great person to kind of brainstorm that with. But one thing that I could think of that maybe, no, she won't get mad at me for suggesting this. One thing that I can think of that might be a suggestion, though you would need to figure out the tech support for it. But Rachel has said that Rachel is our director for communication, for those of you that don't know, for the diocese. And one of the things that she has said, and one of the things that I'm going to explain here shortly, is our circle community. And that's basically our diocesan social networking platform with resources that is not Facebook. And it's private to our diocese. And one of the things that Rachel has shared that might be of interest to any of you in leadership in your parishes is that each of our parishes in our diocese can have up to 2 secret that's a scary word, but it's just so that other people can't see it that are not in your parish. But 2 secret spaces in Circle that are specifically for your parish. And I wonder, Teresa, because she hasn't defined what types of spaces those can be. And in Circle, there are meeting spaces, and you can do live rooms in those spaces. I think that she would probably set a limitation that you can't record them just so it doesn't fill up all of our space.
Right.
But that's where we have our staff meetings each week and stuff. So it's like a pretty easy way, once you know how to get in, to do something like that. And so I wonder if that's kind of a workaround, because it's a resource that we already have.
Okay.
But you can have up to 2 secret spaces in Circle, and I'll talk more again about what Circle is, but that could be a workaround. And then I don't know, Raina, I think you had your hand up or something. Maybe you have something else to share.
Yeah, there are a few free alternatives to Zoom. Um, I have not used any of them because many people don't use the alternatives to Zoom. One of them is Jitsi. It's, one of the advantages, both that it's free and it's encrypted. Um, and so I've not used it. I will actually be using it in an hour for another meeting, and I will learn how to use it. So I don't know how friendly it is or anything. I have not clicked the invitation link at all yet. So it may be one of those things that you'll need someone that is more tech savvy to explore with you for your context.
JB?
Yeah, I would give another plug for Google Meet. I was talking to someone earlier this week, and they said, "Oh, Google Meet, it's not stable," but they hadn't used it since pre-pandemic when it was newer. And I have to say, I've used it quite regularly the past 3 years in several professional settings, and it works really well. In fact, I've had fewer challenges with it than I do with Zoom. So if your parish has, a Google Business Suite, it's free. It's there.
Well, and you can have a Google Business Suite with Google for Nonprofits, Teresa. So if you need help with that, Rachel can help you with that because it's free. Anybody else have any Lenten or other resources to share? See, this is the beauty of community.
Actually, I have a wonder. Well,
Yeah.
sorry, I have a resource too, actually. Work of the People is another resource. If you are looking for a very, I don't want to say easy, it's a good starting point for ideas. Most of this, it's a lot of videos and visual liturgies, visual interviews with different theologians, but also often based on books. And so what we use at Grace is then we'll say to our like book study groups, like, hey, why don't you read this Diana Butler Bass or Richard Rohr book while we do this in forum? Or so that is a resource. A sidebar or maybe a wonder is I think multi-generational is like paramount to where the church needs to go in general. Again, Grace is large enough that we have like pretty siloed programs, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing for us or anybody. And then I also know a lot of our parishes in this diocese, multi-generational is the most realistic option, and I think that's beautiful. And so I wonder, and every year when I get to the planning stage, like I just finished Lent planning this morning, I'm always like, oh, these would have been nice if we had like done a multi-generational thing with it. Not this year though. And so I do think it would be interesting. I like the idea of the diocese offering the things like you are for adults, but also like maybe some resource sharing around like how can we do some sustainable multi-generational and like family resources more than just like, hey, I've prepared like a lot of great take-home stuff for you to do by yourselves. So just a plug for future me always wants that. And then in the season me is like, nope, the silos stay this season. Because
Thank you for answering a question I was going to ask later. I really appreciate that, Christopher, and that's something Jeff is the missioner for formation, a very part-time staff person and the formation team, and that's something that we talk about all the time. is multi-generational and intergenerational formation and what that looks like. So yeah, thank you. Absolutely. And if you want to, I don't know, if you want to be a part of the planning for that, you're welcome to. Anybody else? Hi, friends. Oh, sorry. There's more people on the screen that are my friends. Hi, Laura's. Hi, friends. Talia and Freya. Anybody else?
Like seeing Talia and Freya's faces again on another Wednesday night.
I'm going to, this has been super helpful for me. I hope it's been helpful for you. I've been sharing all these links in the chat, and I'm going to compile these resources and things that we've talked about and shared. And I will be sending out like a follow-up email. It'll probably be next week because I want to also put together maybe some actual branding or resources for the Bearing Witness event and the book study so that you can actually share it in your parishes. And if something comes into your brain and you remember it and you want to say it as we're still on this call about something that we were talking about, please feel free to speak up. I have ADHD, and I'm an external processor. So sometimes it catches up to me when I meant to talk about it 5 minutes ago. So one of the things that I'm going to share in the chat right now and that I've kind of hinted to or talked about a little bit is, whoops, press enter in the wrong screen. Okay, is our circle community. And this is a link to our website that gives some more information about it. And there's like a link for you to join. And within Circle, there are spaces. And when you're onboarding or like filling out your information to join, you say what ministries you're interested in, what program areas you're involved in. You know, if you're a vestry member, if you're interested in formation for young people or adult formation or college ministry or creation care, beloved community, migration ministry, any of those things, or you're the musician or whatever, you indicate those things as you are onboarding. And then what Circle will do is it will add you to the spaces that exist within that relate to those, as well as the public spaces that exist for everybody. And within Circle, there is a space for having conversations about intergenerational formation. And that's also where I'm putting stuff for adult formation, just so you know. It felt silly to me to silo both of those things because they touch on everything. So, but intergenerational formation and children's formation, and there's a network for creation care and a network for basic needs ministries and all sorts of things. And one of the beautiful gifts, I think, of this space is that it puts the information into your hands. Any person in the diocese can be a part of it. And then that means that you have access to all of the information and all of the resources and the connections of people in your hands, and you don't need to wait for somebody else to connect you with that. There's a space in it called the water cooler, and sometimes people will pop in and ask questions about things. John, what was the post you made? You share. What was the one you made in Circle where you were asking for help from your friends that you didn't know, but then you were hoping to know?
Yeah, our hope is to replace our big church sign out front. And so if this is the one you're talking about, McKenzie.
Yeah.
And so I took a picture of ours and said, hey, does anyone else have a good sign that they would recommend or like a company they use to replace theirs? And had a few people respond to it. I would have rather had like 100 people respond because we still don't know what we're doing. But
that's why we keep telling everybody about it, because the hope is that it'll catch on.
We did have a few good ones.
Yeah. And there's like, I mean, I think at this time there's like 300 people who are a part of the diocese who are a part of this. And, you know, if you're looking at a curriculum or wondering about something, or, you know, having a brain block, or just want to know a good book to read during Lent, I guarantee that there are people in there that probably have good suggestions, and you could simply make a post and ask the question. Laura shared, we had made a post about some illustrated ministry, I think Advent and Christmas resources, and just kind of asking for people to share what they're doing, trying to get conversation started. And Laura she really committed because throughout the season of Advent and Christmas and afterwards, she posted the projects that her kids and her family did. So the final projects of the coloring pages that they colored. So it's been a really beautiful gift. And I hope that it would be a helpful resource for you and for connecting in relationship. Another thing that I want to chat about quickly is some things that I am thinking about for this next year, things to be thinking about. So for Lent, we're offering these studies. And then I've already put some feelers out there. So if this calls to you and you want to be a person to be a part of the leading of this, I would love it. Beginning in May, we're going to start doing a diocesan book club. So a different person each month kind of leading the conversation. It doesn't necessarily have to be a book about being an Episcopalian or whatever. Maybe just something that's meaningful or thought-provoking. And so we'll have a diocesan book club and come together once a month to do what book clubs do. So if that's a thing that calls to you, I mean, Christopher, it looks like you have a few books behind you. So would love for you to be a part of that. So that's something that you can look forward to. Also, this summer, we have camping and retreat programs in our diocese that hopefully are a resource and ministry to serve you. And we, this upcoming summer season, well, actually it's the fall for these retreats. We have 2 adult retreats that we'll be offering. And one of them is these ones will be hosted up north at Camp Chikagami, which is our camp facility near Alpena. One of them is a contemplative fiber arts retreat that will be held near the end of September. And then the other that will be held at the beginning of October is a silent fall retreat. So that will be really lovely. And then there are also multiple multi-generational opportunities, as well as a bajillion opportunities for young people as well. Also, I built this website last week, so I'd really love for you to click on it and explore it, and also tell me if anything's broken, and register for everything. And then this year, our Advent Quiet Day was really well received. And so next Advent, I think we'll plan to do something similar. And also Tracy with the Academy for Vocational Leadership and her portfolio with vocational discernment and equipping, her squad, they're always offering like seasonal resources. There's like a Lenten preaching, I can't think of the word, thing. That is workshop. Oh my gosh, what a concept. A Lenten preaching workshop that's going to be offered here soon, right?
February 12th.
Great, yes. And they also did one for Advent, and I think that those have been really well received. So you can pay attention to that, really trying to offer things with a wide breadth and depth that hopefully somebody is interested in and fills them somehow, some way. But also, it's okay when people don't show up. Sometimes it's the day that people don't show up is the day that you really needed a break, or not. But so yeah, so those are some things that are happening. One thing that I would really love to know, and I appreciate you asking this earlier, wondering about this earlier, Christopher. And I'm open to you all sending a message about this too, if you don't want to share now. But it's one thing to plan a bunch of programs that you think people want and will show up for, but it's another thing to do stuff that people are asking for. And, we try really hard. I think all of us in the work that we do, we try really hard to like pay attention to the interests of our communities and like make guesses and sometimes plan things that that they want, and then they don't show up anyway. But what are some things that would be something that would serve you or fill you or be helpful to you in your ministries, in your spaces, in your places, that our office can support with. And specifically, I'll speak for me from the perspective of formation offerings. And that could even mean your church has a low budget for resources and you really want to purchase this curriculum or do this thing. I would be happy to have a conversation with you. And I've said this to a number of people. If you're thinking about buying a curriculum online, before you buy it, reach out, because I have a formation budget and I would love to spend that money on supporting you all. And also, I think that that's a simple way that I can support the ministries that you're doing. But before you spend money, I don't know, reach out. Can't spend a whole bajillion dollars, but I can at least try and support. Anything like right now that you could think of that would be something that you desire or are interested in, or that we've talked about?
Something real basic. There's a book called A People Called Episcopalians, and I think they're like $10 books, something in that price range, or $6 books. I'm not sure. But I put a few of them out in the narthex on a table, and they went. So I thought, oh, okay. So there are people at least interested in that, and I don't know if the diocese has a stockpile of those or can get them, or
I don't know if I've even seen that book. Tracy, do you know if we have any of those in our office in Saginaw?
Oh, I don't think we have any in the office, but I've heard of the book. So I'm not surprised it flew. So I don't think we do have any books like that. I'll have another look next week when I'm back up there and let you know, Teresa, but I don't think we do.
And I mean, I'm happy. I'll brainstorm with Jeff too. That, I mean, if a resource like that, where like tangible items, like books like that you're hoping to acquire for your parish, I think that especially as I'm submitting my budget for next year too, that can be something that I really am intentional about, with like having funds specifically for supporting that. But if that's something that you need help with, reach out to me too. Anybody else?
Thanks.
I don't know if you can see the book, but it's the Episcopal Handbook, revised edition, and it's one that I've really enjoyed. And I don't know where it came from, but probably at a church is where I picked it up. But that's one that has been a real pleasure. And I can imagine that's the one, if it were in like the church library, people would check it out, would borrow it.
Awesome. Thank you. If more things come to mind, friends, I put my email in the chat. I'd love to be friends. Also, if you join Circle, DMing on Circle is a very accessible way to be in conversation with those of us on staff. Yeah, Laura.
And I just do a quick plug for McKenzie and I are working on trying to get people
Yes.
signed up for Education for Ministry. But just because I am in a group actually with Lee, who's in the meeting today, which is awesome. So that's a really awesome connection that we're in our online group with people throughout the country, but there's at least 2 of us here from the same region and the same diocese, which is actually 3 from our diocese, which is really cool. So yeah, just to get, if you have people in your parishes who are interested in Education for Ministry, or you think they might be interested, sign up for that is in the summer, but people usually need to start planning kind of late spring, and we're still working on details, I think, right, McKenzie, in terms of how we get people connected, if we have groups in the diocese, or we're linking outside, if we have funds, what that would look like. But I just want to kind of put that out there into the ether to start thinking and percolating.
And if you don't know what Laura's talking about at all, Laura is a huge advocate and fan of this program, and I'm sure would love to have a chat with you about it. Laura, I wonder, would you be willing to put your email in the chat for if there's somebody that wants to reach out? Awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to send thanks, Teresa. I'm going to send a follow-up email next week with all the links that were dropped in the chat tonight, which are a bajillion, the registration links and details about our offerings and some promotional materials that you could use. And then, the compiled list of the resources that were shared tonight. And obviously my contact information as well. But you don't need to wait for my email to join our communities. You could start some conversations right now. I'm really grateful for you all showing up tonight. This was lovely. Also, apparently, an hour and a half is a fine amount of time when you're an extrovert and can talk a lot, because here we are at 8:15. Let's close with prayer. And this prayer, again, is adapted from prayer from Sarah Bessie. The Lord be with you. Gracious God, thank you for this time together, for the ideas sparked and the connections made, for colleagues who do this holy work of formation across our diocese. Send us out with clarity about next steps, encourage us to try new things, and give us grace for the inevitable mess of discipleship. May the formation work we do be rooted in love, grounded in justice, and open to surprise. Keep us tethered to you and to each other. In Christ's name, amen. Thanks, friends. So grateful for you and being here tonight. Oh, John Wakefield's also a great education for ministry advocate and resource. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Goodbye.
Thank you.